Good morning, folks. No, good afternoon. It's Sunday afternoon here. Kind of getting late in September. Hope to go back to the woods tomorrow, but it looks like rain. And I need money, but not bad enough to log in the rain all day. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. You go out. If I'm already out working and it comes up a rain, I'll work through about any rain. I'm okay with it. But to leave home and go outside into the rain, it's hard to make me do that. Maybe I'm not hungry enough. Anyway, today we're going to hook 3 horses, and we're going to do it a couple different ways. Now, we'd like to be plowing, but the land that we use for plowing is owned by Amish folks, and it's Sunday, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to go around in circles on a exercise sled. The first way, and the way I grew up hooking 3 horses, and we never had any bad issue with this. We always hooked 3 horses and made this work, and worked well. We broke colts this way sometimes. It was a fine way to do it. I don't know why I thought I needed to improve on that. Very simple. You've got 3 horses. Horse number 1 with a bit, horse number 2 with a bit, horse number 3. You take your team lines and you run your long one-piece line all the way to the outside. Outside, all the way to the outside of this horse. Just like you would a team. Now, here's where it's different by only a little. You take your cross line, your check line. Somebody called it a snub line in the comments. And you run it to your off your main line, see, your main one-piece line. You run that to your middle horse, and you do that on each side. Your middle horse has 2 lines. Your outside horse only has 1 line each. And it works fine. Kind of a standard way to do it. We always hooked them into the bits, from bit to bit, and never had any issue. Now, bear in mind, my dad, even a young colt, had them broke pretty quick. Not to do this all day or rub their heads. They're supposed to stand there, and then I strive for the same excellence. I don't always achieve it. This is the first way, and a very easy, effective way, and you don't have to change much. Right now, as I was laying this out on the ground, I changed my cross lines from where I normally drive them. I backed them up 2 notches here because it looked like we'd be holding that center horse back. We still might be. But, you know, that's what today's for. We're going to experiment. So, simple as this. We've got 3 horses hooked, 1, 2, 3 on the bit, and that's all there is to the simple old-fashioned way. So, give me a minute to set things up again, and we'll show you a different way to do things. Now, this is a different setup. I learned this setup. I think I saw it here and there at plowing festivals and things, and then I learned it from Lynn Miller's Draft Horse Handbook. Great asset to any horseman. Maury Telline's Draft Horse Primer is indispensable as well, and it's timeless. I mean, it was written in the late 70s. It's as relevant today as ever. And Maury may have a section like this in his, but Lynn lays it out as he always does. You know, he's the editor, owner, publisher of the Farm Journal. He's an amazing man. He's a hell of a teamster. He's a hell of an artist. And he's quite a man with a written word. And with all that, he maintains being a teamster, a top-notch teamster. You know, I think people tend to forget how good he is. Anyway, you set your lines up just like we did the last time, right? You have your long one-piece line going to your outside bit on both horses. Then you take your cross line. As I said, some folks call it a a check line or a snub line. That goes to your middle horse. So that's how you have this set up. Now, here's where it's different. You have a second cross line. Bear with me, Nick. Oh, you lost the tape measure? No! Okay, and here is the measurement for the second cross line. From buckle to the end of, and I have a snap on here, it's 94 inches. So you have a second cross line. Now this cross line ties right into your main one-piece line. What in the heck am I doing here, Nick? Twisting stuff. I do better actually on the horses. Okay, ties into your main one-piece line just about a foot behind your original cross line, which should be somewhere in the neighborhood of, it's 14 inches behind your original cross line. I do leave myself some adjustment. It should be right about the neighborhood where you actually drive a team of horses. So this line, your long secondary cross line. Ew. Cats are doing their job, Nick. They must have killed a mouse. Goes over here to the horse's bit on the right. Now you have the same thing on the left cross line. This will go right over the back of your center horse. I like to run centerings like this. Right over here to the other horse's bit. Now, when I run this system, and I don't suppose you have to. Andy Herzog and I were talking about this the other day. But you can, and we did, get rid of these center pieces. Now, this is the other setup. Each horse, each individual horse, look here. Get up front and show us clear, Nick. 1, 2, 3. So we have Elvis, Ziggy, Zodiac. I think that's who we're going to hook today. 1, 2, 3. Each horse has 2 lines. When you pull on the left line, all 3 bits are going to move to the left. Watch this. See? 1, 2. See how 3 bits are moving to the left? When you pull on the right line, all 3 bits are moving to the right. Each horse has their own individual line. Yeah, that measures the same, but I had a couple extra snaps on there. This setup works, and most of the plowing and 3-horse work I've done in the last 10 years since I've lived at this place has been using this setup. I don't know if I really find that much different. I don't know if I mean, I'm a control freak. I want a line on every horse. When I hook 4 horses, I don't tie them in, and I drive all 4. You know, like you would at a 4-horse hitch, on a wagon, on a hitch wagon. I don't drive the lead team and tie the other ones in. But that's me. I'm a control freak. And with that said, I thought because of that reason I'd like this setup even better. I don't think so. I actually think my dad's old setup does just as well, but that's what this video is about today. We're going to hook the horses the old-fashioned way that my dad did growing up. And because my dad was just like me. He wanted a line on every horse when he could, and he wanted full control. You know, when he drove 4, he did it just like me. I mean, a lot of people working horses, farming with horses, don't drive 4 horses. Earl and I did. Earl and I don't have my Carhartt pants on today, Nick. I don't have side pockets, rule pockets. Yeah, when Earl and I drove 4 horses, I mean, we had a line coming down through, a line coming up through, or through the fingers, whatever we chose. And we sat up there, we were driving, you know. one horse was a little ahead, we reel him in a little. Just like driving a show hitch. And we expected that same precision on the farm. But, again, this is your other setup. Let me just say it once more. And this is what's left of an ox goad. We make them out of white oak. They've got to be small enough to run a 1/2-inch washer down. What happens is, in the wintertime, it gets cold and you break them off and they end up this short. I don't have a team of oxen right now, so this is a pointer. If I'm going to level with you, I try not to be rude and rough. Every once in a while, this might get up the side of one of the horse's ribs if they're being cagey. About once a year I need to do something like that. We had it the other day with Zodiac, didn't we, Nick?
Yeah.
We don't have it very often, but... Okay, sidetrack. Right here in this stall where Nick's standing. Had a horse named Levon. Good boy he was. And, you know, I kind of made a vow not to be as rough. And Levon had an abscess, got hot nailed or was graveled or something. And I was soaking his foot in a pail every day. And Levon wasn't behaving. He wasn't keeping his foot in the pail. And I'm trying to be patient, put his foot back in and sing Kumbaya to him. And I'm going on an hour. You know, maybe the second, third time I'm already soaking his foot. Finally, I'm sick of it. He's yanking the foot out of there. He's kind of threatening me with a little bit. I walked over here and I got this and right upside the ribs. And I'm going to tell you what, Levon put his foot in that pail and left it there. I could walk away and go have a sandwich and come back. And so, you know, I don't promote abuse by no means. But I do promote the necessary means. And Levon understood it. So, just a sidebar, whatever. Every once in a while... You know, I'm not some ruffled and tumble, show him who's boss old guy. Most of the time, poor horsemanship is your own fault, and being rougher only makes it worse. Every once in a while, I feel like there's a place for it. And it is natural horsemanship. You know, Libby, right behind you, Nick. She's the queen of the place, 25 years old. She's Elvis's mom. I thought about hooking her for a hot minute. But anyway, Libby will, she's very particular about these geldings, and we have a lot of horses come and go around here. We're training for other people. And if Libby's eating hay out of the manger and a horse wants to stand beside her, she doesn't automatically go and swing the old ox goad at her, at the young horse or the other horse that's trying to push her out of the way. Her first cue is she'll lay her ears back. You know, her next cue, she might lay her ears back and crank her leg. The third one, she might actually lay her ears back and take a step closer. By this time, most any horse with any sense is getting the heck away from her. He says, she means business. But you get a dipshit like Zodiac over here. And, you know, people are the same way. Prisons are loaded with people like this. Schools are, workplaces are. But... every once in a while, you get a horse. He took all those cues. Libby laid her ears back. She cranked her leg, said, I'm going to kick. She come around and took a step toward him. The horse doesn't listen. Guess what Libby does? She kicks him. And she doesn't kick him nearly as hard as I just hit a horse with this. But that horse understands, and he doesn't go near her. That's natural. And that's why I'm saying it's natural horsemanship. I'm not saying to swing this and take your aggression out and beat a horse or to do it too often or anything. But when it's necessary and effective. So maybe viewers are clicking off all over the world when I say that. But I guess I'm just an old school guy who was raised that way. But and I believe there's a place for it when done correctly. It's all about timing. I cringe when somebody's giving a horse a beating. And they're doing it wrong. And they're making a problem even worse, or they're beating on a horse for something that they did wrong. And the horse doesn't have any reason to be thumped or hit or anything else. Absolutely cringe when I see that. And let me tell you something else. When I swing this, I am not swinging this any harder than if I was to kill a fly. I mean... Libby, honey, you got a fly right here. I mean, wow, doesn't bother her. She didn't have a fly. She says, you're an idiot, Brant. But you know, the big green-headed flies, you better swing if you're going to kill them. And you know what the horse does? The horse goes, ah, and likes it. I'll give you another example. We're running a log cart through the woods. We'll run over a sapling, a little beech sapling this big. And it comes down, it hits the wheel, and whack, hits him right in the ass. I just hit myself, Nick. That's a whole thing for a different channel, right? Hits them, and they don't even look up. But I hit them with a whip, and I barely flicked my wrist, and they're like, ow! And you know damn well that didn't hurt as much as this sapling that's half as big as your wrist come down and hit them. So that's part of it. You know, we're not knocking their heads off, but we are showing them that, you know, we're not going to get run over by these horses. They're big and they're dangerous. By the way, I just hit myself harder than I'd hit a horse, and I'm living. I don't think I'm going to have any bruises. I might end up in San Francisco wearing leather and chains and going to one of them freaky things or something. Whatever, man, if that's what you're into. Anyway, back to the subject. I just saw my ox goat and I got distracted. Back to the subject. This is the other setup line. The original one does not have this piece, just the cross line. So your center horse has 2 lines. Your outside horses only have 1, with a strap either going from bit to bit, or a lot of people run the strap back here to the hames. I don't tend to do that, but you can, and I've seen people do it successfully. We're going to hook the horses each way and see which way we like better. 5 years ago we started breaking him. We got pictures here recently. And we actually started breaking Elvis in the middle. He doesn't mind. Jim doesn't mind. Nobody does except Zodiac, because that's just how he is. LV boy is going to come over here. We're going to put the snap right on here. And we are going to get rid of this. It's a little bit dangerous snap. And put a newer, safer snap in place. I'm going to double check to make sure these are the same length. They are, so here comes Elvis. Whoa, here she comes. Snap with little Ziggy. I wouldn't be surprised if someday in the future that makes a pretty good pair of pulling horses. And here comes old Goofball. Here come old Flat Top. He come. Nick, when I back him up, just touch his hiney and make sure he pushes toward the back of the barn. Back. Back. Got it. Back. Now, Zodi, this bridle doesn't fit him perfectly. But, as I said, he's going to the woods tomorrow morning, and the bridle I really like on him is already in the trailer, and I do not want to forget it. So we're most of the way there for the simple way of harnessing. So, just like a team, long, one-piece line to the outside. Film from the middle, please, man. The cross line through the hame ring here and up to his buckle. I'll get the outside lines in a moment. Again, long, one-piece line. And I say it, I know I repeat it, and it sounds like some kind of mantra. And it is. I say it to myself. I got out to the Great Lakes show last year. I hooked to the truck the first time. I said, what in the heck's going on with my horses? To the inside. Jordan Hansen says, you damn fool. You got your lines backwards. And I looked and I did. Oh, what was wrong with me? Things like that are reasons why I don't pick on anybody. If I see you at a show or a plowing festival or whatevs, and your horses are bumping into each other because your lines are hooked backwards, you're not going to get me picking on you. Because I do it. And like I said, that's why I say it so often. So to try to help myself not do that. I do realize that these buckles normally go like this to the outside. Whoever put these cross lines together, and it wasn't Nick or I. I'm not going to pick on my good buddy because we all do it. But put the cross line on backwards, so we buckle that toward the inside. I don't find that to be any issue. There we go. A team ready to go to work. The simplest way possible. Really doesn't take much longer than it does to hook up team lines. Your inside cross line, each of them, goes to your middle horse. Outside cross line to the outside horse. These snaps, these little straps, go to the bit of each horse. Now, some folks will hook these maybe a little longer and hook them back here onto the hames. I like what my dad always did. And I'll admit to you that it doesn't sound great, but it sure works well. Oh crap, Nick.
What?
We were going to measure the tugs and we forgot. That's all right, we'll guess at it. So I'm driving 3 horses. We got to go pick up our eveners first off. But I really, I feel just as confident like this as I do anything. And I'll tell you another point about driving them like this. There just is not much to get caught and stuck on other harness parts. There's a lot of simplicity right here. Ziggy's got a little size, doesn't he, Nick?
Yeah.
He's got flat shoes, what we call plates. And he's still taller than Elvis and Zodiac and the Heine. A lot of young horses grow taller in the hips before they do the withers. He's got that mule-looking tail. No offense to any mule guys, but that's not what we want on a horse. But I think that's going to grow back here. We've been fighting something going on with him being itchy for a long time. Getting toward October and we'll have a frost before long, and I think at that point we'll take care of whatever itches. So here we are. I'm hawing. You can see the lines working. I'm G'ing. Get in front of us and look at it a little bit. 3 horses are walking about even. Can you see the dynamics from in front, Nick? Seems to be working. If that seems to be working, it is. We had a touch of rain last night. Part of me'd like to plow. Actually, a big part of me'd like to plow. Ooh. But we are not going to disrespect anybody and their beliefs. We're not going to plow on a Sunday. But they're fine with us taking a Sunday ride. Why don't you stand in front of them while I hook them up? Shut her down. about as comfortable driving 3 horses as I am 2. Starting the time I was about 11 years old, we drove 3 horses a lot. We used them on a plow. We did lots and lots of plowing with 3. Grain binder, corn binder, on a wagon sometimes. Dragon. We did a lot of work with 3, and I'm just about as comfortable driving 3 as 2. Not the same with 4. Now I've driven 4 a lot, but not as much as I've driven 2 and 3. And I'm not as comfortable driving a single as I am a pair, or even 3. I just, I'm a little heavy-handed when I drive single. All right, let's get those even across. We're a long way out there.
Yeah.
So we're doing this with the first setup. Just one set of team lines. Cross lines going to the middle horse. Outside lines going to the outside horse with strap between the bits. Just as comfortable as anything with this. Very easy to set up. I'm going to be honest with you, this is probably going to start becoming my preference. But we're going to give that other one a good chance again and see if I feel anything different. And by the way, these 3 horses all drive pretty good. Quite good. If they didn't, maybe that would sway me one direction or another. Now, I've driven them both with KG horses. I almost think this setup has them under control just a little better if they like to swing sideways or nip at another horse or something. Well, we're walking back toward the barn. Horses always know, and they always go a little faster back toward the barn. Kind of a humid night for this time of year, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's gonna rain tomorrow. My gosh, we need to get logs out, but the rain isn't gonna help. I think I have everything adjusted about right. These horses are even. They're even up front. The eveners are staying about even. Feeling pretty good about this setup. We will tie them up and we'll put the other system of lines on and we'll demonstrate that. These were our display bits, just for proving a point. We'll put them back in the barn when we get done. Long, one-piece line to the outside. The longest, farthest back cross line goes over the middle horse's back. The next cross line goes through somebody's hame ring, goes through this hame ring on your near horse. To the bit. Make sure there's no twists. Nick, can you see this clearly from where you are?
Yeah.
Now, these are an old set of lines I had. They were team lines once, pair lines. I had this ring sewn right into the cross line for a specific reason. That is, it stops the horse. They can't pull this through and get in trouble. They just, a lot of times you could pull this buckle right through the cross line or through the hame ring and get yourself in trouble, and that can't happen with that system. So right now we're putting the left line on. So far, Zodiac has a line to his bit. Come on, get off me. Get off me. You can get off me. Woo. Boy, it's crowded in here. Of course, Ziggy has a line to the left of his bit. And in 2 seconds, Elvis will have. We're halfway there. Here's what I'm talking about. There is no ring on here. You can pull this right through and you get this wedged and now you don't have anything. You can't steer. Now, when everything's in place with this really long cross line on this 3-horse hitch, you're damned unlikely to pull this longest cross line through. But you are likely to pull the other one through. Get off. There we go. Now you got some freedom. 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 I think probably the best way is to come over here to your offside horse and do it all over again. Long, one-piece line all the way back to you, the teamster. Your next cross line, which is a long one, over the center horse into your outside horse's right side of his bit. Your next cross line goes right in here. Goes through LV's hames, goes through your near side hames and to the other side of the bit. And then your long one-piece line, just like in team lines or anything else, goes to the outside. I'm fussy. I don't like any twists in anything. Not my tugs, not my lines. I want everything smooth as a baby's hiney. I suppose you could run these with this style line, but you don't need to. Thusly, we're not going to. Oh, where's that cross line? These are bio lines because I did not want to use one of my good sets of leather lines. I prefer leather. That's just a preference. There's nothing. Just that's just like your opinion, man. It's just a personal preference. So here we are hooked up. Each horse, 2 lines. When you pull on the left line, you pull on 3 bits. I run centerings in here just to keep everything neater. When you pull on the right line, you pull on all 3 bits. Stand there for a minute, Nick, and I'll get my lines on the sled. Fred. Ready to go. Okay, Nick, shut it off. Oh, here's your Teamsters tip of the day. When you're on a work sled or whatever, you go about 10 feet away from where you started, your hitch and rail or whatever you use, and then you stop them. I don't care whether you have a single horse, a team, 3 horses like we're using. Stop them and check everything. Check that all your lines are hooked, all your heel chains, everything like that before you go any further. Get your horses in that habit every single time. That tip comes from Chris Armisen, who learned it from Don Middaugh Sr. And just a damn good tip. Just a good safety precaution. Every time. Go about 10 feet and just check that everything's hooked. ZZ Top used to have a saying back when it was ZZ Top, when Dusty Hill was still alive. Same three guys, same three chords. That's what I liked about them. They didn't change much. Same three horses, different line set up here. So we have the other style with two different cross lines. Each horse has its own line. I'm not sure I have these adjusted quite right. Looks like I got that colt a little farther out front than he needs to be, and I don't quite have enough freedom for the outside too, but we'll drive him a little and see. Nick, why don't you get in front of us and we can watch these dynamics, and maybe that'll help me adjust these lines better. Ooh. How do things look to you, Nick? Looks like those outside horses are being pulled in too much, doesn't it?
Little.
Whoa. Well, just as a precaution, Nick, you stand in front of them, and I'll make some adjustments, and we'll try it then. Here's another thing I do. If I'm getting off the sled, I tie the lines right to the seat. That way I can get them quickly. You stand there. I'm in a bad spot. Are you filming?
Yeah.
That's cool. We might as well see that. All right. Stand in front of them. Let's see if I made any improvements. I didn't have a lot of adjustment on those lines. I moved Elvis and Jim out about an inch. That's about all I needed. They look a little more comfortable. And I pulled Zodiac right on the front line. Ziggy, the middle horse, I pulled him back an inch. That's about all the adjustment I needed. So right now, between those two cross lines, between the front cross line and the new second cross line, there's just about a foot difference. There was 14 inches and now there's a foot. Film that from up high, Nick, and maybe you can see the dynamic of all three lines working. You want me to turn, and will that help you?
Sure.
G. Horse, what are you doing? Well, Les Barden up in Rochester, New Hampshire. I really enjoyed Les. I got to know him fairly well. We had a lot of correspondence. I met him a handful of times. Full of advice. Highly admired the man. He was the master of the D-ring harness and promoted it like nobody else. And if you can get your hands on a copy of his book, the D-ring, or his video, the D-ring harness, get it. And adhere to it. He knows what he's talking about. Also, he had a little 4-H kind of a pamphlet about training calves, working steers for oxen. And I'm telling you, you could write a 1,000-page book and it wouldn't be more complete than that. And a lot of those same principles apply to horses that he applied for those 4-H kids training oxen. But anyway, Les Barden told me, he was on my ass once about a a video I had made. And Les knew I was a sucker when you started using the word dignity. I always wanted to give my horses all the dignity they deserve. And I had my old black mare Jill, who was pretty as a Georgia peach. Ooh. And the stallion in the video, and I had a bunch of friends. We were showing all types of harnesses in a video I did with Rural Heritage years ago. Still available on Rural Heritage. And some of the guys like to keep a halter under their bridle. And I don't. I just don't. And we've gone through this before. I don't like the look of it. I always say, what would our granddads think? You look at old pictures, nobody kept a bridle under their halter until you started seeing a little in the mid 80s. And by the time the 80s turned into the late 90s and 2000s, it became quite prevalent. But anyway, Les said you should take a stand on that. You need to not be afraid to alienate people and take a stand on things. Have some commitment. Well, with Les in mind, I'm not going to take a stand on these lines. I'm comparing two types of lines. And I don't know if I have a huge preference. I like the way they both work when they're adjusted well. I do think if you have horses that are slower and faster than others, this setup with each horse having two lines going to the bit gives you a little more control to adjust things and dial them in a little better. They're also more complicated. Driving the horses feels exactly the same to me one way as it does another. I guess if I had to lean toward anything, I'd lean toward simple. Just the regular team lines with straps between their bits. Or if you prefer a strap from the bit back to the hame, I much prefer between the bits. But I sure wouldn't. This is kind of one of those things. I'm glad I learned another skill, and I'm glad I learned how to build these lines and how to drive and adjust them. But I don't know if this is a big improvement over anything else. I don't feel any more in charge of 3 horses at a time with these. Maybe a little. Maybe if I feel like I'm at a 9 with these, I was at an 8 with the others, but not much different with these than I did just regular team lines with straps. Whoa. Lines look good from in front, Nick.
Yeah.
You know what we ought to do while we're out here wandering around? We ought to pick stones out of this field. That was an embarrassingly bad plowing video the other day, plowing with 3. And most of that was due to hitting stones all the damn time. You know how I got these muscles, Nick? Rawr.
I'm plowing?
I'm picking stones.
Yeah.
When I was a boy. I spent a lot of time on all these fields making stone walls and picking stones. And these Amish folks, now that they own the fields, apparently they don't emphasize stone picking like we used to. I can't imagine running your equipment over it. Those old binders and things like that, cultivators, they're hard to come by anymore. Why would you bounce them over the stones or run it into your cutting bars or stuff? You get one of them big stones, nothing grows underneath it. Must be where they came from in Ohio. Before they moved up here, they didn't have stony ground. Look at all those stones. Jeez. My dad would cringe if he knew we were driving by all these stones without picking them. I've told the story before. A guy moved in here from some country that didn't have any flat stones, bought a farm in Allegheny County down in the southwest corner where it's all stones. Down there to Whitesville. And He said to the old farmer he bought the farm from, "Are there many stones on these fields?" And the old farmer looked around, he pointed at the stone walls on the edge of all the fields. He said, "Nah, looks to me like they got them all picked off." On the stone walls like we got right there, huh? But anybody that grew up on stony fields knows you don't get them all picked off. There's always a new crop. Well, I'd say this was successful. I don't know how badly Elvis and Zodiac needed to do anything on a Sunday when they're going logging tomorrow, but didn't hurt them any. In all likelihood, that weather doesn't look good anyway. We might not be logging. And Ziggy, anything we do with him is a bonus. If you focus right under the britchin, Nick. Woo, woo. Let me show you a little something here, folks. Okay, like I said, I'm going to tie my lines here in a quick release knot. If I need to get to them, I can. Zodiac is just a 3-year-old. Look at those muscles. Look at that hock set. That's why he's so beautiful. But look at those muscles. He's got some power. He developed them. I was kidding about building these muscles picking rocks, but I wasn't, you know. That's how young kids build, is work and stressing themselves. And that's how Zodiac, as a 3-year-old, he's about 3.5. These two share a birthday a year apart. That's how he built these muscles. Combined with good food. You know, he eats a fair amount of protein. He gets some good oats, some good quality hay for each choice. And like I said, I feed a lot of protein, and that builds muscles and a back. Look over here on Baby Bay, Elvis. She is an absolute macho man. Look at those muscles on that thigh. Look at that hock set. Look at that rear end. And Elvis doesn't have what Jim has. Again, we got pictures. Elvis started this as a 2-year-old. Ziggy, he's got a nice frame. He's got nice bones. He doesn't have the hocks the others do, but he doesn't have the muscles either. But he's got the frame to put on that tractor rear end. And the only way we're going to get that rear end and back and the muscles to make Ziggy look like Elvis and Zodiac next year is this, working, combined with good nutrition. You know, I'm not kidding. Most farm kids picking stone, slinging hay, shoveling manure, whatever they had to do, that's how they built muscles and a strong body, combined with good nutrition, because until recent times, farmers ate well, because farmers ate what they grew. I mean, you know, the kitchen garden was a real thing. Home-raised meat was a real thing. You drank milk right out of the tank. You know, you ate healthy. And combine that with hard work, and that's how, you know, why those old farmers are living to be 90 and 100 when other people aren't. Why they're working into their 80s. And it's the same with these horses. You got to work them and combine that with the right nutrition to build some muscle and strength. I hope my daughter Kennedy's listening. She's a world-class athlete. She is a tremendous gymnast. Even though we're in New York, she was a Pennsylvania state champion last year in gymnastics. But boy, she got some poor eating habits. And I'll tell you what, if she's going to continue at that high level, she's going to have to eat better like the rest of the kids. She just likes junk food. Whatever. That's what happens when you're living in 2024. But I wanted to show that they don't develop that naturally. They don't develop that rear end, those muscles that Elvis and Zodiac have naturally without both, the combination of that. Hard work. Actually, let's go all three. Hard work, rest, and proper nutrition. The combination of this, whoa, let's pick that up, Nick. We don't need to give a horse an abscess by hitting that. Anywho, You know, you notice a lot of horses, maybe Amish horses, they work really hard, but they don't have that kind of muscle. Well, they work hard, but a lot of it's endurance work. It's not strength work like logging or pulling this sled or something, but a lot of them get the strength work, but they just don't have the muscle because of the feeding. It isn't there. And I'm not saying they're underfeeding. I'm just saying they're not feeding them the same. They're not feeding them the protein. They're not feeding them the high quality free choice hay. It's not the same as, you know, a bodybuilder eats quite a lot different. You know, a power lifter eats quite a lot different than a marathon runner. Let's just say that. And I hope I'm not being critical of anybody, even though Les Barton told me I could and encouraged me to be. I'm not trying to be critical of anybody. I'm just, and hell, a lot of people don't want that look. A lot of people don't want those muscles. You know, a lot of people are quite happy with a rangy horse. Well, the channel's growing, everybody. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the support. I see a lot of the same fans commenting every week. And I really appreciate that. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate what you have to say and your input and your support. And I know every video is not exciting. You know, it's not a battle for first place at a horse pull every week. Sometimes it's as dull as driving around on a work sled like we're doing today. I appreciate, here's something else I appreciate. I appreciate the support from other YouTube channels. Of course, Jim Gordon has mentioned me a few times and my numbers always jump. And Jim and I have developed a pretty good phone relationship. And we've met each other and we're gonna meet each other again this upcoming week. And Jim's the real deal, but I appreciate his support. Man, I admire what he's done with that YouTube channel. Those are some awesome numbers. Zach Odom, he's another one. He mentions me a lot. Very kind when he speaks of me. I could tell Zach's the real deal. You watch him work those mules. Everything he does. Ground manners, the way he cuts timber, the way he drives them. Zach's a pretty sharp cookie. And he really does a top job with those mules. I really enjoy that channel. And it's an honor for me when Zach mentions me. John Walker and Jeff, they're at Down the Trail Horse Logging, another one that I love to watch. What beautiful roan horses. And I'm telling you, I really enjoy that channel. They're like me. I mean, the old timers that they get on there and themselves, Jeff Ferg and John, they're not afraid to say it in the same terms that we talk in every day and lay it right out there. And they'll show the good and the bad. Those are some good channels to watch. You know, I watch them often, every time I can, which I can't watch YouTube as much as I like because I'm busy editing and putting my own YouTube stuff out, but I try. Those are three of my favorites. Jim Gordon, Down the Trail Horse Logging, Zach Odom. I also enjoy Draft Horses with Alexa. Boy, she's learning, doing a good job, improving all the time. Another channel I'd recommend. There's probably more out there that I just haven't discovered yet, to be honest with you. If I'm leaving anybody out, it's not. It's not because I don't enjoy the channel or anything else. It's because I haven't heard of it. Those are about the four that I know of. So appreciate all the other YouTube people. And now that I'm doing this, we started this in about mid-January. I realize how much work it is, you know. Most of this is just, we're doing it anyway. Nick and I are logging. We're plowing. We're breaking colts. We're competing at horse pulls. We're already there, so why not film it? But it does take a little extra, you know, when I break it down step by step, how to cut a tree or how to harness a horse or whatever. But the extra comes in editing, you know, piecing these short clips together, remembering where I said a naughty word that I ought to edit out. something like that. Making sure it makes sense, making sure I didn't misspeak. I am forever doing something like telling you to put the, here, Elvis, be good. Telling you to put the collar on and then the harness, and instead it comes out, put the harness on and then the collar. You know, that's not what I meant, but that's what I physically said. So I got to edit that stuff. And let me do something else to you here. Right here, Nicholas. I couldn't do this without Nick. Nick is the cameraman. If the camera work gets worse, it's because I'm running the camera and Nick's running the horses. I'm not sure the horsemanship gets worse, but the camera work does. Nick does a fine job with either, and he puts a lot of effort into this, and very appreciated. I love you, Nick, and I appreciate all you do. Not just with the YouTube channel, but with everything you do, bud.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. So with that, we're going to wrap this one up, and hopefully it'll be a non-committal video, and you'll see 2 ways to hitch a horse, and try them yourself. See what you think. 2 ways to hitch 3 horses. See, I did it already. Instead of 3 horses, I said a horse. So, yeah, you'll see 2 different techniques, and try them both yourself. See what you like. Thanks, folks.